Good afternoon, Facebook. It's Alex Hall of Alex Hall and Realty, coming live to you today from beautiful Castle Hill in Sydney. And today I'm going to be talking about the issue of clarity when you decide to put your home on the market. And specifically, my message today is that you should not sell until you have a very clear understanding as to why that is so. Now, the reason that I keep talking about this is because I've discovered that if people go on the market before they're ready, a lot of the time what happens is that people make good offers and those offers are rejected because people have no reason to accept them. If you don't have a reason to change your circumstances, then you're not likely to take the necessary steps to change them. And that's why when it comes to selling your home, you really need to have a clear understanding. But today, to make the flow of this broadcast a little bit more logical, I've taken the necessary step of taking some notes, and so forgive me as I put on my glasses. Now, a lot of the time people say things that seemingly give a good explanation as to why they're undergoing a particular course of action, but they haven't really thought about them, and when they look at them thoroughly, they don't really make sense. So when it comes to the issue of selling, today I'm going to mention 3 reasons why people think it might be a good idea to move. And I'm going to break those down, and I'm going to discuss the fact that really those 3 things don't really make sense. And then I'm going to take those same 3 ideas and rephrase them in a manner that hopefully does make sense, that will put those circumstances into a situation where you would understand that moving is a really good idea. So here are 3 reasons not to sell, and I've got these in inverted commas on a piece of paper. Do not sell if the market is good and you know you're going to get a good price, if that's the only reason. Do not sell if you think it's time to downsize, but there's no reason to downsize. Do not sell if you're tired of the commute to work, but the commute to work is not really causing you real problems. Now let me break those 3 down to elaborate on what I'm saying. Do not sell just because you're going to get a good price. My comment to that idea, and real estate agents say it all the time, they say, oh, the market's doing really well, we're getting great prices, the market's really strong. But my question is, so what? If you've got no reason to sell, does it really matter what your house is worth? If you love where you are and you have no reason to sell, and you're in good standing with the bank if you still have a mortgage, does the fact that you're going to get a good price in and of itself give you a good reason to sell? No, there's no point. Now, the market being strong is not something that is irrelevant. It's a good thing for you to know, but the mere fact that you know you'll get a good price for it if you sell, in and of itself, is not a good reason. You need to have a stronger, deeper reason. Now, a second reason that people think about moving is the issue of downsizing. Now, this often comes to the fore when the kids have moved out and people have been living in a big 4 or 5 bedroom house, and suddenly they're in the house all alone, and they think, oh, I guess I better downsize. Well, my question is, just because you're in the house by yourself, that in and of itself is not a reason to move. Are you able to maintain the house? Are you able to maintain the gardens and the yard? If not, are you able to hire people to do that for you? If you are able to maintain the house or maintain the yard or pay people to do it, and you love where you live, Is that a reason to move just because you're now living there on your own? Are you still feeling safe and secure? Because if the answer is that you are, then really there's no reason to move. Now, a third thing that I've heard people say many times is, I'll sell if I can get a really good price. And in this situation, I'm talking about buyers who are wanting to test the market. And sometimes they've literally said to me, I will sell if I can get above market price. And I realise that I've just said the wrong third point. But anyway, now that I've mentioned that, I'll cover it. If you only are going to sell if you get a really good price, it's the same thing as the first point. There's no reason. And by the way, do you really expect buyers are going to pay you more than even you know it's worth, than even they know it's worth? But forgive me, I need to backtrack. I need to go back to what was my original third point. That is the commute to work. People often say that they get tired of the commute to work, and in places like Sydney, that can be a legitimate thing because some people are travelling an hour or more to work back and forth every day. So it's sometimes an hour and a half or 2 hour or even longer round trip every day. But if that's your only issue and it's not causing any other problems, that is not a reason to move. So if I want to take those three things, let's rephrase them into circumstances where they might become a more compelling reason to move. So let me just look at my notes again. Okay, so the question of value. The fact that the value of the property has risen is not necessarily a good reason. But what if, hypothetically, you've been living in a particular area and you've always wanted to live in another part of town, but you weren't able to afford it. But now the market has risen and you can afford it. And suddenly it becomes possible. Well, if that is the situation, and you have a compelling reason as to why you're wanting to move there, apart from having really love for that suburb, perhaps family members live there, perhaps you just really love the lifestyle. But if the situation that it's always been your dream to move there, but you just couldn't do it because you just didn't have the money, but now the market value of your present home has risen to a level where you can afford it, and moving to this new area is going to be the fulfillment of a lifelong dream, that's a compelling reason to sell because it's fulfilling dreams. It makes perfect sense. Let's talk about the question of downsizing. The kids have gone, you're all alone, and maintaining the yard is such that it's causing you health problems. Now, I've had some clients for whom that has actually been the case. I had a client recently who had a huge backyard and there were lots of trees, and he's a very meticulous person who always made his house look fantastic, by the way. But maintaining the house was causing a real burden to his physical health. And he was retired, so he didn't want to keep having to pay grounds people to come and do it for him. And so the stress of having to maintain this big home was causing real issues. Now, that is a good reason to sell, because he realised there was no need for him to live in this huge backyard that was causing problems with his health when he could move to a small property that had less maintenance issues, that was less likely to cause him physical or emotional stress to his body. So it wasn't about downsizing, it was about maintaining and improving his health. Now, this leads me to the third point, the question of the commute. If, as we were saying earlier, you're commuting every day for an hour, 2 hour, whatever, but that's okay, and that's the only issue, that's not a reason to sell. But what if it is causing an issue? What if, as a result of having to commute an hour or more every day, it's affecting your marriage because you're home late for dinner all the time. And as a result of being late for dinner, you get into arguments with your wife. What if it's causing problems at work because you're always running late for work? What if it's affecting your job performance because by the time you get to the office, you're so physically exhausted because you're having to wake up earlier than you otherwise would to beat the traffic, and you're tired all day, and so you're not very productive? That is when the idea of beating the commute makes sense. But if you're just wanting to move because you think it might be a bit more convenient to be just a bit closer, that's not really a compelling reason. The compelling reason is really relating to your health. You don't want to have the mental health issues of being late and stressed and burdened all the time. It's affecting your family. You don't want to have arguments with your wife or your kids. It's affecting your job performance. You don't want to be coming in late for work all the time and having performance issues all day because just being exhausted. So I'll leave it with that, but basically the point of this, and I hope this stuff is making sense, the point is you've got to look for the reason behind the reason, because if you don't understand this stuff, a lot of the time the decision for you to move really doesn't make sense. But when you do understand that, that's when you can take the bull by the horns, as the saying goes, and take the steps that need to be taken. So anyway, I hope you found this to be helpful. If any of you would like to elaborate on any of this stuff further, feel free to visit my website, www.alexhallteam.com.au. I've got a really helpful book that I'd be very happy to send you. But for now, I hope you have a fantastic day, and no doubt I'll speak to you soon.